Without any further delay, let's get an opinion that I think really matters. A guy who really can offer perspective. He's John Rothmann, everybody. Hey, John Rothmann.
Happy New Year, Mark. Happy New Year to all our listeners and to Kim McAllister.
Hi.
Yes, how about that? A special Kim McAllister shout.
Kim, how are you?
So I would welcome you to this conversation. I just kicked it off by saying, the old adage, Democrats fall in love, Republicans fall in line. I'm starting to wonder about that. They're not falling in line in this case, and maybe the GOP is a changed party in large measure. I wonder if you can speak to this issue and maybe have some insights into this GOP leadership and what might actually happen.
It's a circular firing squad right now. What you have very clearly are 20 Republicans who are saying they will not vote for the leader, Mr. McCarthy. And what that means is that McCarthy cannot achieve the number of votes to become leader. Now, we are now in a situation for the first time since, 100 years to be precise, with Speaker Gillette. And let me assure you, I was not covering that battle 100 years ago, where the Republicans have a real quandary. The holdouts, the 20, and there are 20 now, and one McCarthy voter just voted present on the last ballot. So he's losing strength. But the Republicans in the end will have to come to a conclusion. Now, they've started the next round of voting. There does not seem to me, based on what I've been watching on the screen up till this moment, any change, which would suggest that McCarthy is an ill-fated potential speaker. That is to say, he will not have the votes unless some miraculous change takes place. And remember, all he would need of those 20, or 21 now, all he would need are 4 members to vote for him, and he'd be speaker.
How does he go about, Kim was mentioning the Trump and Pence push to try to get the GOP behind him. How does he go about making further concessions, I guess? I mean, he's already made some pretty substantial concessions.
There are no more concessions. There are no more concessions he can make. And the reality is that the former president and the former vice president have no impact on what's going to happen in the House of Representatives. This is an internal matter. And the idea that Donald Trump has made a statement just shows the impotence, if you will, of a former president. I went back. There are 2 books I would recommend to listeners. I'll hold them up. One is Mr. Speaker by Booth Mooney, which came out in the 60s. And the other is by Dick and Lynn Cheney, called Kings of the Hill. These are older books, of course, but they are books that tell the history of the House of Representatives. We haven't seen this situation in 100 years. And there's no way out unless, and I'm going to say this very clearly, unless McCarthy bows out, in which case the Republicans will then have to choose an alternative. The alternative appears to me to be Steve Scalise. Now, Scalise has other issues which he would have to confront, but you've really got to get those 20 renegade Republicans. Let me contrast this with Nancy Pelosi's leadership. Nancy Pelosi also had a narrow vote. She had the squad on her left, and she was able to get the squad in line. But it is clear that the 20 who are holding out, plus the one who has now voted present, are not interested in a compromise. So it's a very complex problem. Remember, the House cannot even come together. They can't meet. These are representatives elect because you can't swear them in until you have a speaker. On top of that, when the Senate goes back into session in a few weeks, what you're going to see is that everything is blocked because the House has to initiate certain legislation to send to the Senate. Not only that, just so everyone knows it, in case you're worried about your paycheck, unless the House gets its act together, checks can't be issued for a whole variety of issues. So this really is a very dramatic moment, and it is an ultimate test for Kevin McCarthy. Let me be clear about one thing. Kevin McCarthy has pumped millions of dollars into House races across the country. He has campaigned in virtually every district where he had a chance of making a difference. Kevin McCarthy, as a leader, the 20 are repudiating him as a leader. So the question is, how long will the others hold on? And this could go on for a while, or if McCarthy bows out, or if there were a break in the vote and Republicans just saying enough is enough. But so far, McCarthy, at least when I watch him on screen, thanks to C-SPAN, he looks very confident about his position. And there is no rush. There really isn't. They've got another week before they have to sort things out. So this could go on for quite some time.
Do you see McCarthy bowing out, though? I don't know if the ego will let him do that.
He has spent years trying to be Speaker of the House of Representatives. Yeah. I don't think he is going to give up his ambition. I just don't see it. I think he's going to hang in as long as he can. It will require either his, as you pointed out, Kim, his own admission that he can't make it, or it will require his own supporters to go to him and say, Kevin, it's done. It's over. But in the meantime, as a political junkie, let me assure you, I am enjoying every minute of this. You realize when you look at the picture on the screen, well, of course, you're not listening to the Mark Thompson program, you can see every member of the House of Representatives sitting there. I'm learning about people I never knew existed. So this, to me, is it's a negative for the Republicans, though, because they can't show leadership. Hakeem Jeffries, the new Democratic Party leader, has won on every ballot, but he needs to have a majority in order to assume the speakership, and that's not going to happen. By the way, one other quick point, Mark, before your next question. I do not see a coalition between Democrats and Republicans on this matter. The Democrats are firmly committed, absolutely, to the ascension of Jeffries, if it's possible, and the Republicans are equally committed to McCarthy. So it would require a major shakeup. It just isn't going to happen.
Eric says George Santos could lie and say he's a Democrat. Might get some votes for speaker.
By the way, you understand that Santos has not been sworn in, but the people who vote are the people who will be coming into the new Congress. Did you notice, though, the very poignant picture of Santos sitting alone, nobody coming up to him, nobody going near him, which reminded me of another photograph of the former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Joseph W. Martin Jr., who was overthrown by the Republican caucus in 1959, in January of 59. And after his defeat, this man who had led the Republicans for 20 years was seated all alone. Nobody came up to see him. It was a very sad picture. But you will note, if you're watching C-SPAN or the other networks that are covering this, Nancy Pelosi is surrounded by Democrats who want to know what she thinks, because she has the institutional memory and the ability to analyze, I think, better than anybody in the House of Representatives.
Well, she never would have brought to vote something that she, didn't know. She was a lead pipe cinch to have the votes to win. I mean,
but she wouldn't have a choice. Remember, this is a new Congress. And so even if Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats, well, let's put it this way, even if Nancy Pelosi were still the leader, there's nothing she can do. The Speaker does not preside. These are clerks that are presiding, because there is no constituted House leadership. So it's really a marvelous, a constitutional, fascinating moment for someone like me to watch. And Mark, what you've just demonstrated by your comment is there is no way out unless McCarthy bows out, or among the 20 who are holding out, there is a break. All he needs is 5 of those votes, 4, I guess, technically, but I'm going to give him 5 for the wiggle room, to be elected speaker.
There is, first of all, smash the like button for John Rothmann.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Do it with your iron rod.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Yeah, the like button for John. I want to quickly talk about the specifics of alternatives, John, because as loathsome a character, by the way, somebody in the chat said that we ding the word loathe. We've never dinged the word loathe. Loathe is not a ding word, and loathsome is not a ding word. So how dare they suggest that? But back to the point, he is a loathsome guy, I think, McCarthy. He's sold his soul. He represents things even before he sold his soul that I find reprehensible. But that aside for now, oddly, the alternatives might be worse if you're a Democrat or if you're a progressive-minded person. The alternatives to McCarthy make him look mainstream.
Yeah, the Democrats don't matter. Do you understand? They are the minority. The only thing that has to happen to move this forward is for the Republicans to agree on someone. Look, did you see Boebert making a nomination? I mean, it's astounding to me, incomprehensible. But in the House of Representatives, whether you are a liar or a bigot, doesn't matter. Everybody has the same vote. And in order for somebody to become a leader, or if you will, in this case, to become speaker, it has to be done on the House floor. Members of Congress have to be present, and there has to be a majority. And without a majority, this could go on and on.
I get and what I guess what I was getting at is I know they're not voting Democrats, but you're still rooting and watching, as you have suggested, and as you've also suggested with the Boberts of the world and the Gateses of the world. There's this sort of this planetary chaos within the congressional House, and I guess as I sit there rooting for someone, I'm thinking, gosh, I don't know who to root for, like who to hope for, because. I don't want McCarthy to get it. I love that they're in disarray, but the alternatives are also really bad.
There's no question about it, but that's what we get with the Republican majority. If you are a Republican, and there are a lot of Republicans listening to this broadcast, I'm sure, if you're a Republican, the odds are you've lined up with McCarthy. He's earned the speakership and the leadership over years of devoted service. But if you are someone who is somebody who supports the wacko wing of the Republican Party, then you're thrilled with what's happening. You don't care whether there's process. But again, I want to come back to something that you mentioned, and I think is really important. Neither Donald Trump nor Mike Pence has the political muscle to influence what's going to happen on the floor of the House of Representatives. It is going to require the House itself to figure out what could happen. Let me just throw out one other point. It has been mentioned by several that there is no requirement under the House rules for the Speaker of the House of Representatives to be a member of the House of Representatives. We have never had a non-member be elected Speaker, and it's not going to happen now. But when you're doing political commentary, as you and I do, as we all do, you throw out all of the potential possibilities. Somebody talked about Fred Upton, the former member of Congress, being brought back by the Republicans in order to be Speaker. It'll never happen. Never. And the Democrats will never agree to it. So it's an interesting theoretical question, but not practical in any sense.
What do they want? What are the Republicans, the 20 Republicans that are holdouts, what are they holding out for? What do they want?
They want what they view as a true conservative. They want someone who they believe will be absolutely solid, a true conservative. And are they going to get that? We'll have to see. It doesn't look like it to me. They've nominated a second-term representative from the state of Florida as a contender. He's getting the same vote that the others have gotten. There is no viable alternative. And the Republican caucus, what I think will happen is the Republican caucus will meet once again. But they met the other day. And the meeting of that Republican caucus was an absolute unmitigated disaster, because people started yelling at each other, swearing at each other, the whole 9 yards. So the Republican holdouts are the critical factor for McCarthy. And he had hoped that Donald Trump and Mike Pence would have been able to work their magic. But I want to remind you again, members of the House are very proud of the fact that they make the decision. It's not dictated by anyone else. So we now also understand how important the House of Representatives is and its functioning is to the American Republic.
I'm just looking at the chat. How about Mitt Romney's a senator, right? So
yes.
He's not. You
and
can't.
Senators in no way can interfere in the business of the House.
That's not going to happen, John. This is John Smith who is texting in. Define true conservative. Of course, this is the big thing from Incognito. It's true. It's what I would have said was conservative years ago. I don't know what you say now. It's crazy, wacko. I still think that there's and I wonder about you, John, there's a strong sense of the religious right running a big part of the conservative movement in this country now. How do you feel about what a conservative is now? What does it mean?
It doesn't mean what it meant with Barry Goldwater or with Ronald Reagan. That's for sure. What we now have is a Republican Party that is deeply divided. Remember that according to the polls, if you want to believe the polls, 35 to 40% of Republicans still follow the lead of Donald Trump. It's astounding, but that is the simple reality. And so the Republican Party is completely dysfunctional. May I offer one other comment? I know we're running out of time, but I want to be clear about this. Last night, I listened to Sean Hannity. I listened with great care. And Hannity is supporting McCarthy. And he had Newt Gingrich on, the former Speaker of the House, who is also supporting McCarthy. And they are essentially downplaying what is happening now. and they're urging Republicans to unify behind, well, I guess McCarthy. But it simply shows the deep divisions among the Republicans. And by the way, the influence of Donald Trump severely diminished. If anyone is damaged in all of this, it is Donald Trump. His endorsement of Kevin McCarthy has meant absolutely nothing. And his call to those 20 who are holding out has not changed a single vote. So if you are a former president of the United States, the last word you want to hear is impotence. And that is precisely what Donald Trump is feeling today.
It's interesting, though, John, and this in just the last 30 seconds, I would have said, and I might still say, but, you know, as we discuss what a conservative is, if you're a Republican, your litmus test politically was, are you behind Trump or not? Was the election stolen? All this kind of thing. I mean, that really was the litmus test for some time. I don't know what it is now. What
they don't know either, Mark. Yeah. They don't know either. They're not voting as conservatives or as Republicans. They are voting against a personality, Kevin McCarthy, who they simply do not like, cannot abide, and will not vote for. I don't know how Kevin McCarthy. He's made all kinds of concessions, but I think the concessions are over. And now the question is, does he have any leg to stand on? And that answer will come. And I'm glad to come back with you as the days progress, because I think this is one of the most dramatic and important moments in American history. Let me just quickly say as we close, read Kings of the Hill by Dick and Lynn Cheney or Mr. Speaker by Booth Mooney to get some sort of an image of what the dynamic is in the old days in the House, but that certainly doesn't apply today. But it's fun to read a little history.
We love visits with you. Let's do one next week, John. So appreciate it. Thank you. John Rothmann, everybody. Yeah. How about it for John Rothmann?